particularly interested in a speedy resolution to the situation with the Royal Caribbean, and we have been given the assurance that that is something that will be handled in a way that will prevent us from having to suffer any unnecessary disadvantages. Because with the present situation, Royal Caribbean is one of the cruise ship liners that I think last season they brought something like 16 vessels, or there are 16 stops, calls to Tobago, which would have been somewhere in the vicinity between 15 and 20,000 passengers. And because of this situation, there will be no calls in Tobago for 2011, 2012. And if the situation is not resolved expeditiously, there'll be no calls in 2012, 2013. So it was very heartening when we got the assurance from the minister that there's a very good chance that the issue will be resolved, so that we will not have to have any more challenges in relationship to that. The Vanguard Hotel remains a challenge, and although that has not been resolved, but we are hoping and expecting that some definite word can be given to the airlines, so that carriers like Virgin and BA will be in a position to give us some assurance that they will continue and even expand their services to Tobago. We have all heard about the situation in relationship to crime, and I think what came out in the discussions is the realization that maybe all the information about the response to crime in Tobago, all the information is not out there, but also that we have to maybe take a more proactive role in respect of damage control in the situation, and that there might be a need for expert advice in treating with this very challenging situation which faces us at this point in time. And of course, the hoteliers were in a situation where they were able to state their case and to highlight the crisis in which they find themselves at this point in time. But what I liked about the discussion is not only that the hoteliers and the representatives of the accommodation sector were able to highlight the issues, but they made some very sound recommendations as to how their challenges could be at least alleviated. So all in all, I think the most important aspect of this discussion is that most of the decision makers were around the table, and all of the decision makers around the table were able to signal to each other their commitment to this process. And I am hoping, and I'm more confident now, that after this exercise, we will have more collaboration, more cooperation, less finger pointing, less blame laying, and all of us will recognize that we have a challenge, and it is a challenge that affects us in Tobago, but it affects the entire country. And all of us are prepared to take the responsibility to respond to that challenge in a mature and responsible manner. So let me again thank the Minister and his team, and of course pledge the Assembly's commitment to continued collaboration in the development of the tourism sector. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. Now I'll ask Minister Cadiz to make some remarks, in particular initiatives on Vanguard Hotel.
Yes, thank you, Minister Griffith. Well, as many of us know, the issue of the Vanguard Hotel really and truly started off when the Hilton Group departed Tobago, and for the last 2 years, it has been very, very challenging as to what we were going to do with the Vanguard. The government of Trinidad and Tobago owns the Vanguard Hotel, but without a suitable operator, it has presented us with a number of problems. As Chief Minister said, the airlift into Tobago is dependent on a minimum quantity, of quality rooms that would have to be available to support the airlift, and the Vanguard plays a major part in that. And what we've been doing over the last couple of months is to evaluate the whole position of the Vanguard, exactly what the cost of the complete refit is going to be, because the hotel has been unoccupied for basically 2 years, and therefore it needs, as I say, needs work. And it is a case of determining exactly what that work is going to be. In addition to that, we do not have an operator as yet, and we hope to have a decision soon regarding an operator that would run the hotel. Of course, it's a chicken or the egg situation. When do we get the operator first, or do we do the repair to the hotel first? Basically, we have an idea what it is going to cost, and we also have a submittal for an operator, which would be determined. I hope that by this Friday we would actually not determine who the operator is, but to determine that the process by which the operator was to be selected would be was a good process, and therefore we will proceed from that. So I know Tobago is waiting to hear what news on the Vanguard, because it is critical to the survival of the tourist trade in Tobago right now, and that is very much on our minds. So therefore we will be making a decision regarding the Vanguard within the shortest possible time.
Yes, Minister Toppin, please, some comments.
Thank you, sir. The central government is poised and ready to boost the tourism economy in Tobago, and by extension in Trinidad and Tobago. Out of this meeting, we have come to a point where we have appointed a very small committee that will deliberate on the issues aired at this meeting to ensure that we have a booming tourism industry in this country in the shortest possible time. All of the stakeholders have submitted their proposals, and they are especially cognizant of all the facts surrounding the issues. The People's Partnership government is committed to moving tourism to its greatest potential with all of the best practices the industry affords internationally.
Thank you, Minister. I think before we open it up for question, I'd just like to say among some of the decisions we took here today, given the green issue that is very much in vogue these days, that we see the need for intensive PR campaign for damage control because of the effects that it is having on the tourism situation, not only in Tobago, but indeed Trinidad and Tobago. We want to engage a crisis communication PR agency whereby we would seek to get all the facts surrounding the greens issue, and that we would set up a procedure, a marketing strategy to do some damage control. So those are, we're looking at the crime situation, but I do want to tell members of the press that we have treated crime with the emphasis that it needs. And there is going to be a similar and separate meeting dealing with crime as it relates to tourism and crime as it affects tourism in Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago. And that separate meeting will be held with the Minister of National Security. I have mentioned it to him tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll confirm the date and time for that meeting, and we will address all the issues affecting crime as it relates to tourism in Tobago and indeed in Trinidad. So I want to stop there and open it up for questions.
Earlier on you had said, when you're talking about the greens issue, you spoke about doing some damage control. Is that damage control in relation to the tourism industry? And if so, how much damage has been done?
You wanted me or?
Well, Mr. London, you could answer that then.
All right. Obviously, in the tourism sector, it's about image. And anything that has a tendency to tarnish your image, you have to treat with it. And therefore, we would be very naive if we did not recognize that. We don't know the extent, but we'd be very, very naive if we did not accept that what has happened with the greens must have had some potential to tarnish Tobago's image in the UK market especially, and therefore we have to treat with that. The reason why we said we need to have an expert is that you need somebody who understands the United Kingdom market, somebody who understands what these things, how these things operate, and therefore is able to provide us with options as to how we should treat with it. Because there are options that might be provided which are just not acceptable to us in Tobago and in Trinidad and Tobago. But we need to know what the true situation is, because a lot of us will sit here and we either underestimate or overestimate the damage. So we need to have somebody with the expertise to evaluate what is the real damage. And then after that, that person would recommend, after discussing with all of us, what are the options available in the particular Tobago situation or Trinidad and Tobago situation. And then we, the decision makers, will have to make a decision as to which of these options we consider to be most acceptable, and that is the process. And that we know is the way in which most countries in the world treat. Because you see, we have got to understand that as horrendous as the situation with the Greens might have been, and I mean we mustn't forget that crime exists. Crime exists in every tourist destination of the world, and therefore all tourist destinations have to treat with one, the signal you send to individual visitors about their level of safety, that's the prevention aspect, and then also the quality of the treatment if a situation arises, that is one. And then you got to now treat with the marketing aspect of it. What are the signals that you're going to send out there? And sometimes the signals you send don't necessarily match with the reality. And we got to treat with all of that. So that is the kind of discussion that we had during the course of the date. How do we treat with perception? How do we treat with reality? And how do we match the two things? Wednesday's meeting is decision meeting, as we calling it. So we put the decision makers there, and they coming up with decisions. And so coming out of that meeting, we expect that decisions will be made, one as to whether we having one, who it is, and what are the terms of engagement.
Assessments will be made at that point, and we will be determined the PR person best suited for that situation, and what framework we will develop so that we can get the PR out to do the damage control we want to do.
And if I might just add, as I indicated, the person is not going to instruct us, the person will advise us.
Right.
And I made the point that the person will provide us with options. And based on the realities of our situation, we determine which of the options we will accept. So that there is no question of an open checkbook, nor is there a question of us accepting instructions. It's really going to be advice and recommendations, and as responsible decision makers, we will look at those options and select those that we consider most suitable or most appropriate.
Well, let me thank the press for coming, and of course for your patience waiting so long. But as you all know, the importance of this meeting, the intensity of it, and we are very satisfied that we achieved the objectives we set out here today. And we look with great anticipation the decisions taken at Wednesday's meeting. Thank you all.